Welcome back, Knights of Brimstone, to another video. And in this one, I really want to talk about Star Wars again, because I've talked about several interesting things about it. I've said, that, obviously that Tony Gilroy's Andor's not the path to go on. I don't really like the path that Dave Filoni's going in, but the question I wanted to ask is, what would you actually do to fix Star Wars right now? What can actually be done? I've talked about, can Star Wars be fixed? I want to know what you would do to fix Star Wars. You should leave those comments down below. What do you think can actually fix Star Wars? I know for me, I think you have to do several different things. I would actually want to have a massive rollout of things to try to fix Star Wars, because I talked about before, I wanted a Old Republic's trilogy, and I think you can actually make multiple trilogies about Old Republic things that happen, whether it be the Old Republic War with, the Sith, I think it's the second or third Galactic War, when you talk about them versus the actual Sith Empire, with Darth Vitiate and so on and so forth, or Emperor Vitiate. That's an interesting situation, but you also have stuff that came in the past, whether it be the Infinite Empire, whether it be the Great Schism, whether it be the Mandalorian and Jedi War, whether it be the war with the Sith of Marco Ragnos, the Sith Lords like Tulak Hord. There's a whole bunch of things to go there, but I would personally want to start out with the Darth Malgus, the Darth Vitiate situation. I think that's the best place to start out with, to kind of ease people into the Old Republic. And I feel like for those type of movies, you want to make those, again, like I kind of said, movies. They can't be TV shows that you kind of do with. I think they have to be a massive 3-movie trilogy that just send out there, that can kind of revitalize a lot of hope in Star Wars. Make these big budget projects and send them out there. I feel like if you did all that, you'd have a really good chance of making sure that the Star Wars can kind of be revitalized. Of course, from there, you want to add in certain shows and movies. I think there's a lot of that you can do there. A lot of animated stuff you can do, whether it be stuff about the Sith Apprentices, Sith Academy, the Jedi Academy. There's a whole lot of stories you can tell in that Old Republic sense. But I also think that you can still tell stories in the current sense, but I think you got to tell them differently. I think you should adapt a lot more. Obviously, I talked about you want to probably release a new trilogy, readapting the original trilogy. I think that should come after the Old Republic. The Old Republic is there to kind of really regain trust in the overall Star Wars universe back again. After you've already got trust back, after people are like, okay, Star Wars can really compete moving forward, that's when you say, okay, it's time to reboot and completely remake, not the original trilogy itself, but remake a sequel trilogy, completely retcon that completely. I think that's what you do afterwards. That said, I feel like there's more to do. I think they can tell some shows. I think you should adapt, because even the remake or the redo of the sequel trilogy, I think that should be an adaptation of the different stories that popped up there. It shouldn't necessarily be the Dark Empire situation, or I might be getting the term wrong, but the idea of Darth Sidious coming back, I don't want to do that necessarily, but I do want to do Luke's actually building a Jedi Academy. I want to do all that. I think that you should do all the storylines that come with it, with Darth Krayt and so on and so forth. I think there's a lot of storylines you could do there, so I do want to stick with that. I do want to stick with the idea of the Yuuzhan Vong War. I think that's a good idea to continue that story on. I think you got to adapt it, of course. There are certain parts you don't want to necessarily keep, but at the same time, you want to adapt it about as well as you possibly can. Keep the good, release the bad, so on and so forth. Release some of the convoluted parts, streamline it a little bit, and send it out there. The Thrawn trilogy is not something that's not a bad idea. I think you could definitely do that, but I don't think you should do that right now. You got to understand, similar to the way that James Gunn is doing his universe right now, you can't always go with the most insane, wild and wacky ideas. You sometimes got to start out without the ideas that people actually want to see at this current time. So yeah, I would say, definitely don't just start out with Yuuzhan Vong War. Don't just start out with even the entire idea of bringing in the Thrawn trilogy. I think you should instead start out with Old Republic, Jedi and Sith, back to basics. Then you bring in the sequel trilogy, new sequel trilogy ideas. You bring in the Yuuzhan Vong War, all those different things later on down the road. And you should have animated stuff throughout this entire time. You should have animated TV shows coming out. You should have small scale TV shows coming out. They could be in any era. You could have some Old Republic stuff. I just mentioned the Sith Academy ideas, really following some of the Old Republic games and whatnot. I think that you can definitely do that. I also think you can do some new stuff. Like, for example, you could talk about, after they go over Anakin's Anakin's, Jedi time with the Jedi. I think that's not a bad idea to actually go over him and Obi-Wan and how they kind of became a brotherly bond from just starting out in Phantom Menace and kind of going from there, right at the end of Phantom Menace, of course, going from there, showing Anakin's journey as a Padawan. I think that's a good idea. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think you can actually get not only a lot of fans from doing that, but I think it's a good place to explore. Adapt most of the stories from people already wrote about that era, I think, of course, but you can add some new stories here and there. I think it can be a really good, solid TV show. I think TV shows are for places and for stories that have less stakes. The stakes of a TV show in this TV show specifically, but also in most of them, should not be the galaxy-ending threats. There should be small-scale stories like what Mandalorian had. That's why I had a problem with Mandalorian becoming a movie, because there was no real story that could be told there that's worthy of a movie story. It's just a TV show. That's what people thought it was. It felt like a TV show constantly kind of stitched together, 3 different TV shows or 3 different TV episodes stitched together into one movie. That's not what you want it to be like. You would rather instead it actually be, a complete TV show or be a movie, something that's worthy of being a movie. So I think that's what you would do. You would have the Old Republic start out with, you'd have the sequel trilogy afterwards, you'd have these different TV shows coming out in between, all throughout the place, whether it be during the reign of the Empire, whether it be in the Luke and Leia thing after New Hope and so on and so forth, whether it be stories in any of those eras. I think you can definitely make stories in those eras. I think you should also make, video games, of course. Video games, but I mean AAA video games that are actually huge and massive. Go ahead and make those. You should definitely make a new Old Republic game. I know they have a game on the computer. I know they have the Old Republic that they're trying to remake. I think they should actually make an entirely new game in that era. Actually let you do more stuff there, make the combat a little bit less from the RPG way, or you can make it another one that's in that RPG way. I think that's just a good idea to try to actually really invest in trying to make Star Wars back to what it used to be. How can I say another big thing? But it already was huge. It was massive back in the day. Everyone was running around with a lightsaber in their hands. Every little kid had one of those. It's time to bring that era back, and that's how I think how you bring it back. You start by doing all that. You do the Republic together, bring back, revitalize the franchise, sequel trilogy to fix it, and then go from there. From there, you have a whole bunch of things you can do. You can go deeper into the overall universe by going into the, Schism and the original Jedi, all that stuff. I definitely would love to go through all that stuff. I think that's what you gotta do to kind of bring Star Wars back. That would be at least my plan to bring Star Wars back in the long run. I think you could have Star Wars running for another good 60 to 70 years if you really did your job in that situation. But that's just my thoughts on it. What are your guys' thoughts? Comment down below if you agree or disagree with what I'm saying here. Leave a like, share the video, of course, and don't forget to hype the video up. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. I thank every one of you for doing that or not doing that. It doesn't really matter. Bottom line is that you came and gave the video a watch, and for that, I thank you guys. I'm going to cut it right here and stop rambling. Until next time, stay vigilant, Knights of Brimstone.